Esaenai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Esaenai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ha'iten lamod raglecha, ha'yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo ishan, shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Yomam hashemesh velo yakeka, ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha, me'ata ve'ad olam. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha, me'ata ve'ad olam. Ha'mekoma tavo v'shalom. We begin with a psalm, Shir Lama'alot, a song for those who ascend. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. You see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming, now and forever. May Rose Appel go unto God in peace. Hatsur tamim polo ki chod racham mishpat el emunah ve'einav el tzadik v'yashar hu. Tzadik atah Adonai lamidu l'achayot asher b'yadcha pigadon kol ruchot chalila lecha zichroneinu limchot v'yihiu na'einecha b'rachamim aleinu v'kuchot ki lecha Adon harachamim v'haslichot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, the judge of truth. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach Yishem Adonai mevorach. V'hu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchit. V'hirba la'ashiv apola v'yirko chamato. V'yashov he'afar al haaretz shehaya. Ve'aruach tashuv el ha'Elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Rose Appel's soul be bound up in the bond of life, and may Adonai send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you to all of you who have tuned into our broadcast of this service as we come together today to honor Rose Appel, Rachel by Yehoshua Ufredel, the daughter of Harry and Frida Rifkin, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory. In Jewish tradition, we view it as a sign of the ultimate respect to accompany someone to her final resting place, which is what we are here to do today for Rose Appel. In addition, we have the opportunity to say goodbye. Rose passed away on Thursday, the second day in the Hebrew month of Shvat. She was 96. She is survived by her family, her 3 sons and daughters-in-law, Alan and Pam, Brian and Paula, Fred and Marilyn, her grandchildren, Jackie and Matthew, Josh and Jamie, Lee, Lottie, Martine, her great-grandchildren, Olivia, Zev, and Ryder, and by her brother Saul, as well by her extended family of cousins, nieces, and nephews, and their families, for whom she was Auntie Rose. Rose was predeceased by her parents, Harry and Frida, as well by her older brother Max, and by her beloved husband Morris, all of blessed memory. What does it mean to call somebody tough? To admire them for their toughness, for their tenacity, for being strong-willed and fiercely independent. It means an ability to be resilient, to overcome adversity, to survive and to thrive against all odds. Rose Appel was a tough lady. She was strong-willed and fiercely independent. She had strong opinions about almost everything, though she insisted regularly she didn't pass judgment. She was a proud woman. Her grooming, her dress, her makeup were always meticulously attended to, helping her to cultivate an air of calmness, control, and authority. Like many women of her generation, a child of the Depression, when there was trouble, she swallowed it. She kept it to herself, never wanting to burden others. But she was a fighter. She overcame health challenges early in life and other tragedies throughout her life, including the loss of her husband Morris when he was just 67. But she soldiered on. At age 96, she was still living on her own in an apartment across from Grant Park Shopping Center, always keeping herself busy, socializing with friends, shopping for herself, cooking for herself. Even over the last few weeks after her birthday, When her health failed her, Rose continued to battle and even outlived doctors' expectations. Today we celebrate and honor a woman who was shaped by her childhood and upbringing. Born in 1924, Rose Rifkin grew up in Selkirk, the second child and only daughter of Harry and Frida. Her parents were both immigrants from Europe, who had settled in Selkirk and together worked long, hard hours to run Rifkin General Store. Rose was enlisted for help with the family business at a very young age, and by the age of 10, she already had more formal schooling than either of her parents and began doing the accounts, making up bank deposits, and serving customers. She even worked long hours in the summers when the family ran their seasonal hot dog and hamburger stand. Rose had fond memories of time with her dad when she was young. Harry would involve Rose in the family's side business of fur trading. She'd join him on trips up north in Manitoba to visit indigenous communities, to trade for mink and muskrat pelts. Even 80 years later, she could still recount in amazing detail the process of skinning and stretching out muskrat hides, and could recall the phrases in Cree she'd learned to communicate with locals on those trips. She had other fond memories in Selkirk of making friends with some of the other families, children from Icelandic and Ukrainian communities, though she did have to deal with anti-Semitism. During the Second World War, she spent more and more time in Winnipeg, often staying at her aunt's house. A cousin kept encouraging her to go out on a blind date with a young Jewish pharmacist, a few years older than she, who was from the North End and had recently started a business with a partner. His name was Larry Rose Appel, though all his friends called him Morris. Finally, and certainly reluctantly, Rose agreed to that blind date, but admitted she was standoffish all night, thinking he'd never call her again. But of course he did. And it wasn't long before he started showing up in Selkirk for visits, and even bringing along his mother, who would of course converse in Yiddish with Rose's parents. The families got along great, and it wasn't long before Rose and Morris were married in 1946. They moved south, first to Waverly Street and then to Queenston Street, where they raised their 3 sons, Alan, Brian, and Fred. Rose began as a married woman working in the home, supporting Morris while he ran that pharmacy in St. James. Rose, who had developed quite an instinct for business from those early years helping out in the general store, was never shy to lend an opinion or comment on the pharmacy's business practices. Rose and Morris enjoyed many trips together, including visits to Barbados, Mexico, Croatia, and Cyprus. Many of these adventures were connected to the world of pharmacy through a national organization of pharmacists and a ladies' auxiliary of all the pharmacists' wives, who would attend conventions together and the social outings that went along with them. At home, Rose was a maven when it came to her homemade pickles, harvesting cucumbers from the backyard, adding the dillweed and garlic, vacuum sealing the jars. Her pickles were matchless, according to her sons. She also made crab apple jelly from fruit in the backyard, handmade gefilte fish each Passover, and was famous for her apple and blueberry pies, with her signature outstanding pie crust. As a cook, I'm told her repertoire was good but limited. There were a few standout favorites, debated on by members of the family, like her roast chicken. Of course, her sons quickly learned that if the answer to the question, "What's for dinner?" was, "It's a surprise," they weren't going to like it. Rose and Morris enjoyed 40 years of marriage together before Morris got sick. Before he died, Rose went to work outside the home, another testament to her resolve and independence, when she took an exam and got a job with the Winnipeg branch of Revenue Canada. It was a 9-to-5 job for the first time in her life, and she delighted in the routine, in the feeling of accomplishment, and in the community of co-workers she found through that job. She was older than most of them and enjoyed her maternal role within the group. This job was very important, an outlet for her intellect and her energy outside the home, and it proved even more important in providing structure and routine after Morris passed. She continued in that job for several decades. Rose Appel could be quite sociable and enjoyed her weekly, religiously held mahjong games with her close group of friends. They took turns hosting and loved it every week. She took an interest in her friends' lives and in the lives of their kids, always asking for updates with each phone call, doing her best to stay in touch. As a senior, she enjoyed the nostalgia of watching old movies and took great pride in telling her friends about the accomplishments of her children and grandchildren. She followed everyone's careers, celebrated their accomplishments, and even lived vicariously through her out-of-town granddaughters' dating lives, occasionally offering unsolicited dating advice to them. When Brian and Fred and their families would visit Winnipeg, it was always an occasion to look forward to and to pull out all the stops in celebration, with dinners out almost every night. Rose was especially thankful to have her oldest son Alan close by to help her, though she managed, as we mentioned, to live on her own, to shop on her own, to cook for herself, to care for herself, well into her 90s, and truly until the end of her long, long life. What does it mean to be tough, to survive, to be resilient, to soldier on? Rose Appel embodied the soul of a woman whose toughness can serve as an inspiration to all of us. It is my honor, in her memory, to chant the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Ba'meromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezohar Arakia Mazhirim, and Nishmat Rachel Bar Yehoshua Ufredo Shelcha Leolama, Began Eidente Menuchata Anabal Harachamim Hastirea Besete Kenafecha Leolamim Utzro Bitzro Rachayim Enishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom Hamishkava V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Rose Appel, Rachel Bar Yehoshua Ufredel, the daughter of Harry and Frida, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Again, I want to thank all of you for tuning into this service. As we continue to navigate our way through this pandemic, it's very difficult during these times when we're so familiar with rituals of being together physically, to mourn, to grieve, when we can't be together in the same way. And so I encourage you to reach out to Rose's family and loved ones with text messages, emails, phone calls, ways to show that you care, to join your hearts together with theirs. The family wanted me to announce that they will be organizing So make sure you're in touch with them. A Zoom Shiva call for an opportunity for people to share memories, reflections, stories, and help in the grieving mourning process during these challenging times. If you have a way of contacting family members, be sure to do that and make sure you're aware of how you can participate in the Zoom Shiva. Very healing and cathartic at this time for Rose's family. To the family I say, Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ara ve'lei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning. With that, we will turn in a moment to the mourner's Kaddish to conclude our service. And then the family will have an opportunity to shovel earth into the grave. This is a mitzvah. It's an extension. It's a righteous act, something selfless we do without any hope of any reward, an extension of that first thought I shared earlier of our tradition holding that the ultimate form of respect is to care for someone until the very end. We believe our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands, kind, knowing, and sorrowful hands. Before we recite the Kaddish and conclude our service, I will again offer the words of Job, the epitome of Jewish suffering, which I said at the beginning in the opening remarks. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God you have given, God you have taken, blessed be the name of God. May the memory of Rose Appel be a blessing, as we mark that her essence will never leave our hearts and our souls. We turn now to the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayecha u'vyomecha u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha berichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Again, I will thank all of you for tuning in and encourage you again to reach out to the family. And I wanted to give a special acknowledgement and thank you to our volunteer pallbearers who continue to help us as a community during these challenging times, as well as our staff here at the cemetery. Thank you.